Why it's so important for you to show up as your best self.
Competence and confidence have to complement each other.
Comparison is a thief of joy. Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to episode 4. If this is your first time tuning into this show is all about personal development, improving yourself, and mental health as well. These are some of the topics that we'll be covering on this show. Man, we just feel like these are topics that are not spoken about very often in our community. So we want to hit on them. Carlos, how you doing today, bro?
Man, feeling blessed. You know, it's been a long week.
Yeah.
Coming off some exhilarating business meetings. We've been planning this for some time to get episode 4 off the ground. So glad we're here and I'm feeling great.
Let's get it. So feeling great kind of goes into what we're going to be talking about today. And what we're going to be talking about is building confidence and building a healthy self-esteem. All right. So look, we're going to dive into a couple tools, a couple personal experiences, a couple of things that we do to help you believe into yourself, overcome self-doubt, and really present yourself at the best self in every situation possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's key to, show up confident in the world.
Yeah.
It's, again, right. We said it before, right? You feel good, you play good, you play good, you get paid good.
For sure.
Right?
100%.
So ultimately, building confidence and self-esteem isn't something that happens overnight. You can't just throw this in a microwave and instant ramen noodle this. It takes practice, it takes a plan, and ultimately you have to build the building blocks and the foundation for you to sustain it. So excited to dive in.
Yeah, 100%. And so diving into it a little bit, I want to share something that helped me, kind of my journey to get to where I'm at and overcoming, obstacles. We've talked about obstacles in previous episodes, but for me, what has helped me the most become confident is simply facing my fears, right? And I say simply, but not easy, right? Facing your fears, but doing the things that make me uncomfortable, that I don't want to do, maybe that will stretch me in a way that I don't know what the results are going to be, are all key things that have helped me develop self-confidence, especially as a man. Like I remember going to a couple different business conferences and early on, with the podcasting and like me trying to figure out what I want to do in business and just looking at the people on the stage and seeing like, yo, these people are, with all due respect, they're no smarter than me. They damn near come from the same place I come from. They got the same story as me. What's the difference between them and me? Why am I in this seat and why are they on the stage?
Yeah.
And the biggest difference is the belief that they had in themselves. And so, man, one of the things that I like to say when I step into the rooms, I always try to step in every room like God sent me there.
Yeah.
Like this is divine timing. This is a divine opportunity. Even where we're at right now, I come onto this microphone with the confidence that God sent me here.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why I'm here. And that's just how I've been operating recently.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's important to believe in yourself. I think that's where, when you look at some of the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders is that they have an innate amount of self-belief and confidence. Research shows that individuals with high self-esteem tend to have better mental health, more resilience, and greater overall life satisfaction.
Yeah.
In fact, a study by the National Institute of Mental Health found that people with high self-esteem are less likely to experience depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that they don't deal with those things.
For sure.
They're less likely, or it is, not as common or prevalent in their lives. Being truthful with you, like I've dealt with anxiety. I've had high functioning anxiety where, I'm thinking more in the future and what's coming versus being mindful and present in the moment. They say if you're thinking about yesterday, you're dealing with depression, right? If you're thinking about the future, you're dealing with anxiety.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about today, you're being mindful.
You're being mindful and present.
Yeah. And so for me, it really comes down to how have I built confidence and self-esteem? It's in my own self-development story. I did not know what, investing in yourself really meant until, probably about 12 years ago, where I was, working through entry-level jobs and trying to establish myself in a career. And I knew that I had to continuously self-develop and have self-awareness to understand that who I am today does not define who I am tomorrow. And in order to build those building blocks piece by piece, I had to do self-development. So I have, done things from taking courses, right? I've done personal development with reading books, seeking therapy. I've done counseling. Also, professionally, I have, taking professional development courses, taking classes at, I've done some classes at University of Washington. I did some classes at Columbia University. And so I've always taken the extra mile to invest in myself and self-develop, because ultimately you don't know what you don't know. And if you walk into a room feeling less than, your self-esteem will drop, your confidence will drop, and ultimately you will not show up authentically. And so over those years, I've understood that I'm here with a purpose. I'm here with a plan. And ultimately, I am putting together some techniques and tools to help drive my self-development and continuously evolve.
Yeah.
So, 100%. And to that, also one thing that I'll add is that as I've built confidence and self-esteem, I have evolved and have been able to become that person that I've envisioned. So always be mindful that, you have to continuously change and evolve.
Yeah.
If not, the world will change you.
100%. And one thing I love to implement in my life is why it's so important for you to show up as your best self is because your obedience is connected to so many other people's destiny.
Love that.
You know what I'm saying? So like if I wasn't obedient to developing myself, becoming confident as a podcaster, being confident in this platform, I would have never attracted what we're doing here with Carlos. And same for Carlos. If you would have never developed yourself in the ways that you've done that, I probably wouldn't have been interested in doing this.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, because ultimately, you want to attract those people that are going to go through the journey with you, right? You want, life is as you go through life, you're a big magnet. And if you have negative thoughts, negative opinions, self-doubt, you will attract those kinds of people.
You will attract those people.
You will surround yourself with those people unintentionally.
For sure.
But if you run with the winners, taking it from
company.
From LeBron and Mav Carter, if you run with the winners and you're constantly giving yourself the understanding that you're going to get 1% better, you're going to you're going to continuously improve, you will give yourself the room for error and the ability to make mistakes without beating yourself up over that. And knowing that you're not perfect. We're just, as humans, we're imperfect.
For sure.
But understanding that there is room for improvement, there's room for error, while you continue to build your confidence and your self-esteem is a critical step to evolving into who you want to be.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I love what you said earlier about all the development that you put into becoming who you are today. And it's crazy because you still have room for growth that you always talk about, right?
Personally and professionally.
For sure. And Man, I feel the same way about podcasting. Like when it comes to podcasting, like I feel like I'm up there when it comes to being able to hold these conversations, deliver. And that just all comes from the time, the hours, the studying, the investment. I remember I invested in a speech coach. Like, yo, tell me how I can articulate myself better.
Love
And
it.
they're like, what do you mean? Like, you podcasting, you're not a public speaker, but no, I want people to understand me better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Doing the little things. And I just learned that from people like Mike and Kobe. You know, Kobe was big on making his shoes slimmer so he can get 0.4 speed faster or something crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To elevate his game, you know? Yeah, I mean, I just learned those little nuances from people like that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, as we get into some of the tools that we'll talk about, you know, there's a lot that those GOATs
Right.
have done to remain, you know, to be able to perform and remain relevant at the highest level.
Mm.
And you're, you know, as long as you're aware that you have the ability to improve,
Mm-hmm.
and you are, you know, you're mindful of your strengths and take account for some of your weaknesses, you know, then you will find that continuous confidence.
Mm.
But one thing that I'll say, and as I'm kind of thinking through this, is that there's a lot of people that walk through life with a lot of confidence, but not a lot of competence.
Talk about it.
Right. And so to me, you have to have a 60-40, 51-49 balance of both, right? Like competence and confidence have to complement each other in any room or environment that you're in. Because if you're over leveraged on confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have competence,
Mm-hmm.
you're bound to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that's where some of the greats have really dialed in to understand what that formula looks like,
Mm-hmm.
how they continuously build on it, and how to pay the rent every day on it.
What does competence mean to you?
You know, competence is, it can mean a lot of things to different people, right? But to me, it's the understanding of the inner workings of something, right? And having a understanding of whether it's, you know, the mechanics of what you're doing or the overall operation. And, you know, it's having enough understanding and information and intelligence about what you're talking about or what you're trying to communicate or achieve, right? Whatever that scenario might be, that you have just enough information to be dangerous, right? And then from there, you layer on confidence, then you can communicate or take action upon that information. So I think it's a healthy dose of both.
For sure, 100%. I love that. Let's dive into these strategies to help increase confidence and self-esteem.
I'm loving these. So the first one, we've talked about this on previous episodes, but I think it's just key, right? It's positive self-talk. You know, one effective way of driving your inner dialogue is through, you know, our perception. And so having that self-perception of who you are, understanding that you have areas of improvement that you're driving towards progression, and doing that in a positive self-talk way is important. A study by the University of Michigan found that people who practice positive self-talk had higher esteem and better stress management. And so, especially in today's age, deal with a lot of stress. Having a positive self-talk around I will, right? You know, I think I've shared this with you, but probably not on the show. I've had an executive coach. And that executive coach has helped me through, you know, change management at work and, you know, being a leader and how to look at things from a different perspective. But he was always correcting me on some self-talk because The way he put it was, if a manager told you, you must do something, or like you will, and using those very forceful words, you're going to have a negative response, either consciously or subconsciously. The same thing goes for your positive self-talk.
I love that, because shout out to Shannon. You know Shannon.
Love Shannon.
Him and his wife are huge on self-talk and words, right? So I remember he was honestly, and I've had a different podcast before the Latin Wealth platform, but he was like one of the first guests I had on the platform. And I remember going to his house, recording. We did not have none of these fancy cameras, these lights. We didn't have none of this. I didn't have none of this. I had a DSLR camera that shut off at 30 minutes or 15 minutes, I think. Had my microphones, and I had peeked down at the microphones and I noticed it wasn't even recording.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we got to use the audio from the camera. It was a mess. He didn't notice it. He was enjoying the conversation. I remember afterward, they were like, yeah, we love what you're doing or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, maybe one day it'll be bigger. I said, maybe one day it'll be bigger. Or maybe one day I'll be at a studio or something like that. And his wife looked at me in the face and she said, do not say maybe. You will be in a studio one day. Looked me dead in my face. And I said, whoa. Ever since then, I don't ever tell myself that I can't do something or it's not possible. I say this a lot. By you telling yourself you can't do something, or I don't feel like doing it, you're shutting your brain off to the possibilities, to figuring out how to accomplish that.
100%. Yeah. And I think manifesting is so key, right? I mean, we all start somewhere. And to your point, you started there. I had similar, challenges in many aspects of my life where I wasn't where I wanted to be on day 0, but by day 100, day 1000, I had mastered things.
For sure.
So jumping into another strategy, first one, positive self-talk. The second one I think is super important, especially in today's age, self-care and self-compassion. I think those two go together. I know you have a lot of self-care routines. I'd love for you to touch on those, but really quick, I'll just mention this, that research by University of California, Berkeley, found that self-compassion increases feelings of worthiness and reduces self-criticism, right? So talk a little bit about your self-care, self-compassion routines. I know that you're big on morning routines and things like that. Talk about that.
I love getting me a haircut. A haircut makes me feel amazing. So, I mean, look, and I know a lot of guys can feel me on that, but man, look, just waking up, sitting outside my balcony, looking at Dallas, and I'm not saying this to flex, I'm saying this because I'm grateful. And, sitting there and showing appreciation for all I have, it makes me literally feel good and it energizes me. My wife and I, she knows I'm big on on the weekends, we like to do things. I'm not the type of person to sit around in the house. I start to get antsy and anxious. So by just us spending half the day or the whole day together like that is part of self-care for me as well. Eliminating comparison, I think, is also big for me as well.
It's a thief of joy.
Comparison is a thief of joy. So I think that has also helped me over the years when it comes to self-care. When I'm feeling a little anxious, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, taking a step back, literally shutting everything off and just breathing, praying to God. These are things that I also implement day to day throughout the day. Last but not least, one thing that really takes my mind off of, just what's going on in the world is we love to travel, and sharing new experiences together. And I think that, that's big for me as well when it comes to taking care of my mind. Just knowing when to shut it off is also big too.
Yeah, 100%. I think
I know I was kind of all over the place there, but I'm just throwing out some things that I do, that help me out, that keep me focused, keep me on track.
Yeah, well, to your point, it's about reframing things.
For sure.
Right. And so self-care is important. I 100% agree. A haircut.
Yeah.
Like, listen, shout out to Tommy. Yeah. Shout out to Junior, my barber, here in H-Town at Peter's Dominican Barbershop. Like going in and getting that self-care, super important. But I think also self-compassion and giving yourself, that room to fail or to, not live up to your expectations, but then be able to have the awareness to analyze it and say, okay, these were the factors, and this is where I failed myself, which leads to the third tool here, right? So
talk about
3 strategies: positive self-talk, self-care, self-compassion. And then the third one is reframing failure, right? So Harvard Business Review found that reframing failure as a learning opportunity increases resilience and creativity. When you experience a setback, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What would I do differently next time?
I want to jump on this real quick. So I mentioned to you, what was it, 2 weeks ago, that I submitted a bid for a government contract. I'm going to keep it real, everybody here. It was a big bid. It was 7 figures.
Okay.
Confident I was going to get it. I was working with somebody that was going to be handling the work, and I was going to be doing more project management. I wasn't going to get the whole 7 figures to myself. It wasn't going to go all to my business. It was mostly going to go to his, and I get a cut out of that.
Yeah.
We were confident, like everything looked good. We submitted it. Didn't get it. So in that moment, when I found out, I had 2 options. One, be down on myself, beat myself up, give up on submitting bids like this and just fold under pressure, or do what you just said. What can I learn from this to apply to the next one to be better? And that's exactly what I did. Literally instantly, dude told me we didn't get it. Cool. Somebody came in, literally like $800,000 lower. Like, it was impossible. Yeah. Like, at this point, like, you're not even doing good business. You're just doing something shady.
Yeah.
Cool, whatever. What can we learn to improve upon and do better next time? And literally within 10 minutes, I started submitting more bids.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, listen, I have definitely been in a position early in my adult life, maybe even adolescent life, where I didn't know the blessings and the lessons of failure.
Yeah. Talk about it.
Right.
Talk about it.
And so it got to a point where then I started seeing repeated patterns. They weren't necessarily the greatest feeling, right?
No, not at all.
When you're back in a situation,
for sure,
because you didn't reflect on your failures to understand what got me here, how can I improve? And now I'm back in the situation. And so those to me were probably some of the biggest blessings that I've ever had, because it showed some of my blinders and some of my weaknesses in a very data-driven manner, right? Here we are again. Carlos, WTF? You didn't apply yourself in a a manner to understand the signs and the signals.
For sure.
And ultimately, that does come with wisdom. It does come with understanding, but ultimately, in life, it's not about what happens to you, right? It's how you respond.
For sure.
And ultimately, using these 3 strategies will give you more self-awareness in those moments to identify and make the changes needed to ensure that you are learning and evolving from those moments.
100%. And to wrap this thing up, I think the last thing I'll say is, man, it's difficult in those moments when you don't get that bid or you don't get that job, or maybe it's somebody that you thought you were going to marry, but they end up not being the one. Reframing your mind is so important, and reframing the failures is so important, because I have now a mindset where I thank God for the things that I got and the things that he didn't give me. Because I just don't know. Maybe that opportunity would have been too much for me to handle and I would have blown up the business. Like, you got to thank God for where he's placing you and the things that he doesn't give you. And oftentimes, just because you didn't get something doesn't mean you won't receive it in the future. And that misdirection could be, you could be avoiding a lot of pitfalls.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're falling in love with the outcome and not the process.
Yeah.
Right. And ultimately what you learned out of this recent is the process, right? This isn't a one and done shot, right? You now have multiple shots and ultimately it's just how many shots does it take you to get to yes?
Yeah. 100%. That's it.
I love it.
Love it. If you guys enjoyed this, please share this episode with one other person. It would mean the world to us. And as always, dale pa'lante. Peace.